The Republican Zone is brought to you by Drew Murray.
Hi, this is Drew Murray, and you are watching The Republican Zone on Usala Media. It's been over a year since I stopped my show, where I put it on temporary pause, but now I'm back. So, we're going to talk mostly politics. Obviously, it's called The Republican Zone. In all transparency, I am currently in a race as a Republican for Philadelphia City Council at large. So, I will obviously be talking about my race. In future shows, I will have other candidates who are also running for City Council at large, other candidates who are running for City Council districts, hopefully some candidates running for mayor. Be mostly Republicans, but at the same time, in the past, I've had both Republicans and Democrats on my show, and I will continue that. A lot has happened since I stopped my show a year ago. In fact, there was a special election last year that I participated in. I announced for my City Council at large race in May of 2023. So I was off and running in May of last year for this year's race, which is the normal cycle, 2023 cycle, where all 17 City Council members, or spots, I should say, are up for re-election or up for election. But in Philadelphia, there's a resign to run rule. So all of the City Council members who wanted to run for mayor, and actually even the controller's office, Rebecca Reinhardt, they needed to resign in order to run for mayor, which opened up numerous seats on City Council, both at the district level and on the at-large level. So typically, Council President Clark would only have had special elections for the district seats because he wouldn't have wanted to have those district seats open for a year and a half, which makes sense. You need your district council person in there most of the time. If it was a few months, that's one thing, but for a year and a half, that isn't doable. But no one expected him to do the City Council at large races. And he did not plan on doing it. But since there were a number of people running for mayor who were at-large candidates, including Helen Gim, Alan Dom, and Derek Green, he felt that there had to be, Helen Gim had not stepped down yet. It was Derek Green and Alan Dom. He felt like he had to have special elections. So many of us on the Republican side were not expecting it, but it happened. We had about a month of a campaign. So a guy, Jim Hasher, and I were the two Republican endorsed candidates for those special elections. And we ran head-to-head against Democrats. So I ran against a gentleman named Jim Harity. Jim Hasher, who's the other Republican endorsed candidate, ran against Sharon Vaughn. So we went head-to-head with Democrats, which is unique. It would only happen in a special election. And Jim and I did well. We knew we were long shots going in. I didn't want to say we had no shot, but we knew we were long shots going in. And we each got about 81,000 votes in that special election, which was significantly less than the Democrats. Sharon and Jim Harity both had about the same votes, and they both had about 300,000. But it was significant in the fact that it was more votes than any other Republican has received in a citywide election, probably since Sam Katz, when Sam Katz ran for mayor. So it was a significant number. I was hoping for closer to 100,000, but it was a number that was good enough that when it came to endorse for this year's 2023 cycle, Jim Hasher and I have both been endorsed again. So we are the two endorsed candidates for City Council at large. We endorsed early, we endorsed in December. We know we got to get ready for that general election in November. And the way City Council works, and the way I said in November in the special election, we ran head-to-head against Democrats, and you really don't do that in the 2023 election cycle, is the format for City Council is there are 10 district council seats. For example, I live in the 5th district. Council President Clark is my district council person. And then there are 7 at-large seats. So they are council members who don't cover a specific district. They are truly citywide. And only 5 can come from one party. So for example, of those 7, only 5 can be Democrats. And then the other 2 since we are in a city that is mostly Democrats, it's an 8-to-1 ratio. Only 5 can come from one party, so the other 2 are from what are called minority parties. So as I was explaining, I'm sorry, so there are 10 district council seats and then the 7 at-large seats. 5 can only come from one party, so in a city like Philadelphia, those 5 are going to come from the Democrat Party, and 2 will come from minority seats. Typically, those 2 minority seats, traditionally and historically, they've been Republicans. So when I say we're not running against Democrats in the primary, that's what I mean. So Republicans, I'm not running against Democrats. We're in the primary running obviously against other Republicans who could be running for those seats, but 5 will get past the primary. And then come November, traditionally there will be 2 people, hopefully 2 Republicans, who win in November. So we're truly not even, the race isn't against Democrats this time. It will be against Working Family Party's members, because I said traditionally those 2 minority seats were always held by Republicans, or historically held by Republicans. In 2019, Councilmember Kendra Brooks won one of those seats, and Councilman David O won the other. So this cycle, this year, we are hoping, and I say we, I mean the Republican Party, we are hoping that we take back those 2 seats. And the 2 Republicans that we hope and believe will be on the ticket are the same 2 Republicans who ran in the special election. So Jim Hasher and myself. So that's just kind of a brief overview of how the city council elections work. In the mayor's race, as I said, there's a resign to run rule. So a number of people who were on city council had to step down. Helen Gim, Alan Dom, Derek Green, Maria Quinones Sanchez, Rebecca Reinhardt, who was not on city council, but she's the city controller. She had to step down. Sherelle Parker, who was a district council person, she had to step down. Other people who are running are, for example, Jeffrey Brown is running. Fareed Abdul is running. A number of people are running in this race. It is a crowded field. And we're really just starting the cycle. You're starting to see these mayoral forums start, even though petitions haven't been circulated. Petitions start to be circulated on February 14th and will go for 3 weeks. So on the Democrat side, there's not going to be any issues for the most part of anyone getting their minimum 1,000 signatures. And I expect all the people who have announced will get through, will get through to the act, to actually being on the ballot. But it's a crowded field. It's on the Democrat side. It's a variety of people from progressives like Helen Gim to business people like Alan Dom and Jeffrey Brown. So it's going to be a very interesting race. No Republican has announced yet. We're expecting Councilman David O, to announce in a few weeks. So it's going to be an extremely interesting cycle, both on the mayoral side and on the city council side. And then there's the other offices like commissioner. Commissioner is set up the same way. There's 3 commissioners. Only 2 can come from one party. So in a city like Philadelphia, again, that's going to be 2 Democrats. And then there's going to be 1 minority seat that is currently filled by a Republican now in Seth Bluestein. The Working Families Party will put up a candidate to challenge Seth in the general, assuming that candidate gets on the ballot. They got to get enough signatures to get on the ballot. That number of signatures hasn't been set yet, but I think it's going to be in about around 7,500 signatures that they're going to need to get just to get on the ballot. And the way petitions work, just to give you some background there, to run in a citywide race, whether it's the mayor's race or a city council race, we need to get a minimum of 1,000 signatures. So a Democrat needs to get 1,000 signatures from Democrats, and they need to be circulated. The people getting the signatures have to be Democrats. And on the Republican side, we also need to get 1,000 signatures. So it's a little more challenging for Republicans to get the minimum 1,000 signatures because, we're in an 8-to-1 ratio. We only have about 100,000 Republicans in the city of Philadelphia, where Democrats have about 850, 900,000. So it's a little easier for Democrats to get those 1,000 signatures And at the end of the day, you need more than 1,000. You need to make sure you have enough signatures that are what are called good signatures. So if, not that you would ever do it on purpose, but when you're getting signatures, or most people want to do it on purpose, when you're getting signatures, it could be someone, you thought, they thought they were registered, but maybe moved here and hadn't registered yet, or they were a Republican and now they're a Democrat and didn't realize that they didn't switch back. So the reality is you need to, at minimum, get around 1,400 signatures to when you put your petitions in. So and even more on the minority seats. So a party like the Working Families Party, since they're not going to be in a primary, they're going to be in a general election. The number of signatures that they are required to get comes from the previous citywide election, which was the special election that Jim Hasher and I were in November. So I don't think the number has been set yet, but we believe they're going to need about 7,500 signatures. Now, they can get signatures from any registered voter in the city of Philadelphia. So it's not just Democrats, not just independents, not just Working Family Parties members. They can get signatures from anyone. So even though their numbers are very high, it seems so much more challenging to get those signatures than 1,000 minimum of a Republican or a Democrat. It's not as difficult because they're able to get signatures from any registered voter in the city of Philadelphia. So for example, they could stand at Renau Square one day at lunch and just say, are you a registered voter? If the answer is yes in Philadelphia, then they can get signatures that way. So it's probably even more challenging for a Republican, I should say, to get the 1,000 than it is for a Working Families Party member to get the 7,500, and that's just how the rules work in the city of Philadelphia. So it's going to be interesting races on all sides. If you look at the city council at large race on the Democrat side, I think you got already about 15 to 20 people who have announced for those what will be 5 seats, and you're going to have 3 incumbents. You're going to have Isaiah Thomas, you're going to have Catherine Gilmore Richardson, and Jim Harity are going to be 3 incumbents who are definitely running. I don't think Sharon Vaughn is planning on running again. That could be incorrect. Obviously, we won't know until the end of petitions if Sharon Vaughn does decide to run again. But from what I understand, there's going to be 2 non-incumbent seats open on city council at large on the Democrat side. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see if anybody else puts their hat in. There will be people who ran in the 2019 cycle, like Erin Santamore, who's already out raising money, who's already announced, who has thrown her hat in the ring, who will absolutely be a force and absolutely probably be one of the favorites to take one of those 2 seats. But we'll see. There's others like J.B. Kelly, who has thrown his hat into the ring. So we're gonna see how that all works out. Either way, there's going to be a number of new city council people next cycle, or next year, I should say. So it's going to be a completely different makeup. Even there are going to be 2 incumbents who won in the special elections, but it's going to be a completely new dynamic. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all of this plays out. And over the course of the next 9 months, while we're in this cycle, and actually 10, 11 months, while we're going through this cycle, I will have guests. I will have hopefully some mayoral candidates again, some at-large candidates, commissioner candidates, perhaps registered rules candidates. I'll try to have all the candidates or candidates, I should say, from each office who are running for each office on the show to see, to get their feel on what they think is important for the city of Philadelphia. And I'm going to take a quick break now that I've given you a breakdown of kind of how these races, how they're structured for this cycle. And then in the next segment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the issues that are important, that I think are important to residents of the city of Philadelphia. So I'm going to take a quick break and we'll be back in a few minutes. You're listening to Drew Murray on the Republican Zone on Usala Media. Welcome back. I am Drew Murray, and you are listening to or watching the Republican Zone on Usala Media. So the first 15 minutes, I talked about the structure on how city council races work, on how the mayor's race works. Kind of dusted off some rust. I'm still kind of getting back into the game here, especially without a guest. I will normally have a guest on this show. It's not easy for me to talk for 15, 20, 30 minutes by myself. But what I'm going to spend time on in this second part, this last 15 minutes, the second 15 minutes, are the issues that I think are important. In fact, I'll say I know are important to the residents of the city of Philadelphia. And I have my palm card here. Palm card is something, if you've never seen it before, it's a 4x7. It's what you drop off when you're going to an event, or if you're door knocking, they fit in your pocket, pops out, and you give it to somebody. And it just has just a little bit of background on you possibly, and it just hits on bullets of issues that you as a candidate believe are important. It doesn't go in depth. If you want to go get more in depth of a candidate, you're going to look at their website. You'll probably see some of the same bullets, but you'll get a little more information on each of these issues. And I ran in 2019. My palm card stayed similar. But there is one thing that's on there, and people ask me this, and this is both on my candidacy side and in my role as an RCO leader and neighborhood leader in the city of Philadelphia. People say to me or ask me, say, Drew, what's the number one issue on the minds of the residents of the city of Philadelphia? Or even they say, Drew, what are the top 3 issues? And I say the top 3 issues, without a doubt, are quality of life, quality of life, quality of life. The quality of living of the residents of the city of Philadelphia have dramatically decreased in the last 5-6 years. And when I say that, quality of life it's a big umbrella. And when I say quality of life, I mean everything from, and it is all about crime, from low-level crimes like students breaking into a Wawa or ransacking a Wawa, to people going into a Rite Aid or a CVS and stealing things off of shelves. It deals with the illegal ATVs and dirt bikes that are all over Center City where I live, and honestly all over the city of Philadelphia. So it goes from I'll say those lower level crimes, but serious crimes that seriously affect the citizens of Philadelphia, to unfortunately crimes like murder. Murder, for example, of Nicholas Elizadeh, who was at Roxborough High School, or Jaylene Holton, who was the designated driver one night when someone in Northeast Philadelphia shot into a bar because that person got into an argument and shot into a bar, and she was tragically killed. So it's a large umbrella, but these are issues that affect every resident in the city of Philadelphia. The lower level crimes affect us because Wawas are closing all over the city of Philadelphia. CVS's and Rite Aids are closing all over the city of Philadelphia. Drugstores in general are closing all over the city of Philadelphia because Larry Krasner, our district attorney, told people that if you steal under $500 worth of goods from a store, then they're not going to prosecute you. They're going to treat it like a summary offense. So it's going to be a slap on the wrist, a small fine. So literally these stores have become, people just walking into these stores, filling up their bag and walking out. I've seen it personally. And it's become a business. They go and they fill it. These aren't people who are down on their luck and need toilet paper. These are people, it's a business. They go in, they fill up their bag. 10 minutes later, that those products are up on eBay or online somewhere to buy. It's become an illegal business. But as long as you have progressive policies, they continue. The ATVs and illegal dirt bikes, it's a little more of a challenging problem, and I understand that. It's tough for the police force to chase these people, because if they chase these people who are on illegal ATVs and dirt bikes, some of the people on these dirt bikes and illegal ATVs are kids. They're following adults, and those adults should be arrested, but they're kids, and no one wants to see kids get hurt on an illegal ATV or an illegal dirt bike because they're following an adult who was a bad example because of them. There's also, it puts in danger people on the sidewalks, because if they start chasing them, these people are going to go on sidewalks and they're going to hurt people. So it is a difficult problem, but it is still a problem that we need to deal with, and I will absolutely deal with when I am on city council. Last year, we had another. It was the second most murders ever in the city of Philadelphia. It was lower than the year prior, but we're still breaking numbers that we haven't seen in 25, 30 years. And when you look at the murder totals, there is only one variable in my mind. There's other things that affect it, but there's one variable, key variable that you look at, and numbers have increased every single year in murders since our district attorney has been elected to office. And he has been elected. He was duly elected, and he is our district attorney. But I believe everyone, including the mayor, I don't think this current mayor is going to do anything about it, but the next mayor and current members on city council and future members on city council need to put pressure on this district attorney to stop this, what I call, experiment that he's been doing over the last 5 years, 6 years. He needs to start prosecuting criminals. Now, I don't want to go back to the days of mass incarceration. That is not what I'm saying. But we do need to prosecute everything, every minor crime, every major crime needs to be prosecuted, but the punishment needs to fit the crime. Again, I don't want to arrest a woman who's down on her luck, or a man who goes into a drugstore and steals toilet paper. But if someone does steal that toilet paper, there has to be a consequence. There has to be a consequence at all levels. So, and look, Larry Krasner was duly elected. He will be in office for the next X amount of years, for the next 2 years. And there's nothing we can do about it. He's not going to be impeached. But what we need to do as city council members, we absolutely need to put pressure on our district attorney. So we're going to take a quick break. I have my friend James Whitehead, who just walked into the studio. So we're going to take 10 minutes after this, and I'm going to interview my friend James Whitehead. Thank you for listening. This is Drew Murray, Usala Media, the Republican Zone.
Usala Media.
Welcome back. You're listening to watching the Republican Zone on Usala Media. My name is Drew Murray, and I am here with my good friend James Whitehead. James, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
So James is another Republican who ran in the special election as well.
Yes.
For the 7th Councilmatic District against, and I apologize, who did you run against?
I ran against Ketchy Lozada.
Okay. And the 7th, approximately, where is the 7th Councilmatic District? I know it's Kensington.
Yeah. So it's like Kensington, Frankfurt, lower parts of Oxford Circle, West Kensington, East Kensington, Port Richmond, Harrogate, Juniata, lower North Philadelphia area.
Okay. And that was the seat that previously was Maria Quinones Sanchez.
Yes.
And the woman who could, how do you pronounce her name? Ketesi?
Ketchy.
Ketchy. Okay, I apologize. She was her chief of staff, is that right?
Yes, her chief of staff.
Okay, and so she's currently on city council. First time running, right? That was your first time in an election, so special election. You are looking to get the nomination from the Republican Party again for this cycle, for the regular cycle.
Yes, for the new cycle.
Okay, so yeah, we have not made our endorsements yet. That's even I don't live in your ward, so, or I should say your councilmatic district, so I wouldn't even be part of that. But so you're looking to do it again?
Yes, I am.
All right. So did you like running before? Was it because I know the first time I ran it's a hard job.
It's a very hard job.
It is very hard. So people ask me like, do you like campaigning? I'm like, I don't like campaigning. No. Yeah. I said I'm going to love being a city council person, but I don't like campaigning.
Yeah, campaigning is tough, man. Especially for me when it was my first time. It was an experience, and it just so happened to be that Maria Quinones Sanchez ran for mayor, and I took that as an opportunity to run to gain the actual experience before.
Yeah, and you know nothing. And I take that from when I know. In 2019, I came in. I was a Democrat when I switched parties, and the next day I announced as a Republican. So, and I knew absolutely nothing. Like, I mean, things like, and I hired my campaign manager, Randy Robinson. I was like, I was getting my palm cards printed, and I'm like, someone told me I need to get this done by a union printer, and I'm like, is that true? And Randy just goes, of course, bro. He's like, you have to get this. You have to have anything you're printed has to be done by a union printer. So I knew nothing. I didn't know how much any of this cost. I was always like, why? How come it costs so much to run a campaign? Right. And then you go and buy your lawn signs for the first time, and you're like, and even in the special election, I got 1,000 lawn signs. It's $6,000. They're like $5-6 a piece.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, and I hate to break it to you this time. You didn't experience this last time. You're about to go in about a month, assuming you get the Republican endorsement.
Yes.
You're going to go into the petition process. You're going to have to get signatures. 3 weeks of signatures, knocking on doors. If you thought that a campaign was hard before, the hardest 3 weeks of a campaign are getting petitions. And you and I didn't have to get them in the special election.
No, we didn't.
Which was great. The way it works is the party, the Republican City Committee, just they vote, the ward leaders vote on who is going to represent them in the special election. Now we're going to have to get signatures. I think you have to get 750 is the minimum.
Yeah, 750 is the minimum, but I'm going to double it up.
No, yeah, you have to. So, and it's not fun, my friend.
Yeah, I'm already having nightmares about it.
It's cold. I'll tell you what the good thing is. I'll lose 10 pounds because I'll put on probably 15 to 20,000 steps a day. You don't have to lose any weight. You're a young man. I'll lose a little bit of my gut. So that's the good thing. So once we're past, and then hopefully you're endorsed. You get to the general, you win. There's an obvious issue where you live, and we were there the other day.
Yes, we were
at K&A, and it's the tragic state of Kensington now. A tragic state that, in my opinion, and I said this in the interview that we were both at the event we were both at, I said Kensington isn't forgotten. It's ignored. Yes, everyone knows what's there. I think anybody who is running for any office, whether it's mayor, whether it's city council, I'll say governor, if you are in the state of Pennsylvania running in a citywide race, in a statewide race, if you're running for commissioner, which runs elections, I think you should walk through Kensington and see what is happening there. Not only to the addicts and the people who need help, but for the community itself.
Absolutely. And I live in there.
Yeah.
I live in there. And that's my neighborhood. Frankfurt and Kensington are both different neighborhoods. But one thing I noticed by living there, I used to live in the uptown section around Germantown, Mount Airy section of Philadelphia. And I remember growing up there, and it wasn't nothing like that, right? So I'm 35 years old. I grew up there. Early 2000s, it was the avenues were bustling with people. The businesses was going well. The drug epidemic wasn't as bad as it is now. The number one reason why I think that the drugs has gotten way out of hand, not only did the drugs become stronger, but I think that media had a big part to do with it, and ignorance and ignoring the problem from city and state officials caused the problem to grow immensely, right? So, for instance, we all know there are people that go to California for one specific reason. They have to try the weed because it's being advertised and promoted. It's the same thing with the drug fentanyl. You have people down in Kensington that I'm talking to on the streets. They're like, I'm not from here. I'm from Missouri. I might be from Washington State or Idaho. And I'm like, how did you hear about this? He's like, well, people talk amongst their community and their circle. The city of Philadelphia, the officials here in the city and state officials need to address it.
So you're saying it's a destination?
It's a destination.
It's a destination to get drugs. So people are literally traveling to the city of Philadelphia to get these drugs. And, personally, and as a district council person, that would be your district. So that's absolutely going to be probably number one on your list. As a city council person, I say Kensington's going to be number one on my list because we all got to go. Every city council person, the
all
next
hands
mayor,
on deck.
All hands on deck. I would say bring in the National Guard. I would say bring in the police force. Sweep the neighborhood of Kensington. And I'm not looking, and personally, and you tell me your views, I'm not looking to arrest the people on drugs. I'm looking to arrest the drug dealers.
Yes.
And get the drug dealers out of there and get the people who are trapped in the cycle of addiction the help that they need, whether it's because, whether there were mental health issues that drove them to these drugs, or if there was an opioid that they had taken for pain medication that got them addicted, that led them to this path of heroin. I'm not looking to arrest those people who are. I think it's a disease personally, and some people disagree with it. Yeah, some people disagree with that, but
it is. My take was I was going to be, I wanted to put together an intake and patient treatment facility center geared towards mental health, drug addiction, and behavioral health issues. I have a sibling who's on drugs, and she wasn't always like that. My sister wasn't always like that. She still is, not she was, but she still is bright, very smart, and something happened in her life where she felt like she had to turn to drugs to mask the pain, and she gradually graduated to stronger drug use. So when I talk about the inpatient intake treatment facility center, geared around to those three reasons, because that's some of the main reasons why people abuse drugs, because you might have lost your sibling, you might have gotten raped, you might have experienced something traumatic that make you want to mask away the pain. But what keeps them on a drug is not only the drug itself, but the mental delivery that they're going through, right? They're not able to face their problems. And in the inpatient treatment facility center, my plan is to house people that are suffering from drug addiction, behavioral health, or mental health, and house them to get them help. That way they don't have to be out on the train stations getting high or panhandling for money, because everything would be in the facility. I think that, state officials and local officials are too soft and not hardened. They say that, well, if you do it that way, it'd be inhumane. But it's almost like you can't allow for someone to go into the streets. Like the plan is they go get the needles. And I know that these nonprofits mean well, but I think that it needs to be different. I think that there needs to be housing.
Well, it's inhumane having them be on the streets. I mean, you walk it crushes you if you walk the streets of Kensington, seeing people, trapped in that cycle, and just you have to see it to believe it. And I'd say people, this is like 3 or 4 miles from Center City, Philadelphia, and you feel like you're in a different country, in a different world. And what I say to people, the first people, and I agree with a lot with everything that you just said, they're going to say, well, where's the money going to come from? And I say, it's the federal government that kind of turned a blind eye to a lot of these issues. I think the city of Philadelphia can't afford to do all those programs, but I think it's on the federal government and even at a state level to fund some of these programs. The city,
absolutely,
yeah, absolutely.
I agree. So, for instance, like the city of Philadelphia have gotten. So I was actually at the McPherson Square Library about a couple of weeks ago, and the mayor came down with Catchy and the rest of the crew. I believe Jim, I forgot his name. Jim Harity was there.
Jim Harity, yeah.
Yeah, Jim Harity was there. And I remember hearing something, and it's a fact, that they're going to be putting methamphetamine labs on the streets on wheels so they can go get high. My thing is, once they get on, they go into the methamphetamine mobile, and they're going back on the streets. All right, okay, I hear what you're saying. You want to, put methamphetamine labs to challenge the fentanyl in hopes of getting the addicts off the fentanyl drug to make it less enticing. All right, so when you get them high, they go back onto the streets. Now it's still there, right? Now if I put you back on the streets high, and you're saying, well, this isn't strong enough, now I'm going to go back to the fentanyl. Yeah. So it's not a way. It's not I think a way to get people.
No, I agree. And here's the problem: you're not solving the problem what it's doing to the community, because they're still on methamphetamines. And is it? And I'm really torn here. Is when you have these clinics, is it getting people back to living a life where they're productive, where they can, they're not tied to these. I'm going to call them methamphetamines, these drugs. I know it's a treatment, but are they getting to the next level where they can get back and function and be a functioning member of society. I mean, and I don't know if that answer is yes. I feel like I don't see that, and it's hard. And we'll finish here because the reason we were at K&A, well, see, there was it was more about the mayor's race, but we were there. What all the questions were about were safe injection sites.
Yes.
Because if there's going to be, everyone says if there's going to be a safe injection site, it's going to be probably the first one will be Kensington, although they did try to open one in South Philadelphia. What are your thoughts on safe injection sites?
So I understand they mean well, but I'm not a fan.
No, I agree. I say there's a few reasons I don't agree with them. Number one, I think they enable, and again, I think addiction is a disease. I think it enables addicts. I think it normalizes drug use, and it destroys communities.
It does.
And for those three reasons. So on the addict side, I don't think it helps them. I understand the thought process of, it's harm reduction. We want to save them today so we can get them off of drugs tomorrow. But these sites don't do that. There's no treatment after. If you were to go in, at least I'd listen to the argument. If you were to go in and you were able to do these illegal drugs, but then you had to do treatment of some level, then maybe I'd listen to it. But there isn't. And there's no study that I've ever seen that shows, okay, this person came to a safe injection site. It was safe, so this person didn't die. And in 12 months, we broke the cycle of addiction. Because there are no studies. They don't do those studies because they know what the answer would be. These are just enabling people to do these drugs. And look, I understand that they are saving them if they overdose, and that is a good thing. But you're not saving them in the long term. When you put a needle in your arm, you're killing yourself little by little, or a lot by a lot, every time you put that needle in your arm.
Absolutely.
So
and I want to say this as well. So some people say, well, if you wanted to start the intake treatment facility center, how would you fund it? Now, the city of Philadelphia has gotten $200 million that's going to be spent over the course of 18 years, and the first $20 million would have to be spent. And the mayor made it in his plans and his duties to do one thing, and that is to spend the $20 million before he leaves office. Now, like you said, that money came from the federal government. So I would use some of that money to create an inpatient intake treatment facility center.
sure.
Like you stated,
And it's got to go to proven businesses. I mean, I'm a little nervous where that money's going because
absolutely.
They say community groups, and I'm probably mishearing, but I think of community groups as an RCO leader. Like, are they going to give this to the local neighborhood association? Who I know as a neighborhood association, I wouldn't know how to use this money. This needs to be experts, people who know how to use this money to get it to the right spot to actually mean and do something. So there needs to be accountability with that $20 million to make sure it is getting to the right people. And by the way, going to the neighborhood of Kensington to rebuild it. I'm fine with that because we owe it to the residents of Kensington to make that neighborhood whole again.
You know what else I see this happening? There's no true prevention, right? Like, for instance, if you put a lock on the door, you prevent someone from just walking in your house, right? And when I think of safe injection sites, I'm like, well, what is the prevention point? Now, here's the thing. If we don't tackle the main root as to why someone goes on drugs, then the door is going to be a revolving door. It's constantly going to be hundreds and hundreds of people at the door. And I'm going to tell you something else that's happening. The large drug addiction is overshadowing the problems of the people that live there, right? People may be going through other things.
Sure.
Right.
The root cause of the problems. Why did they go to drugs? Why did they turn to drugs?
Right. So they're casting the shadow. So the drug addiction is getting all the popularity in terms of the people's needs, the basic needs of people, right? So if you don't cover the basic needs of people, then they're just going to be the next people up in line on the drugs. So we have to stop it from the root. You know what I mean? We all think about K&A, like, hey, well, it's a big drug addiction place, a place where people go to use drugs. But what about the homeless? What about how many people are able to afford their rent there? What about the child care? What about certain basic needs and necessities and qualities of life? They're not being answered. So I feel like a lot of people, like one of my district is the lowest voting district in the city of Philadelphia. This is a fact. and people don't come out to vote because they feel like their needs are not being answered, because everything is just all about the drugs.
Sure.
And the drug addiction, again, is overshadowing the basic needs of the people.
Yeah. So yeah, we could talk about this issue for probably an hour, and we got a lot of other issues that we can definitely talk about. We're out of time now, but I'm going to have you back on. We'll have you back on in a few weeks or a month. Again, the show is just starting, so you are my first guest on the Republican Zone, and you'll know, I guess, in about 3-4 weeks, if you get the endorsement of the Republican City Committee to again run for the 7th Councilmatic District. So good luck there. Thank you for coming on my show. And yeah, we'll definitely have you back on in a few weeks, or maybe after petitions. You're not going to want to come in during petitions. You're going to be outside knocking on those doors. So,
yeah, I'll be too busy.
That's right. So thank you, and
thank you
again. Thank you for everyone watching. This was the inaugural kind of reboot of the Republican Zone on Usala Media. So thank you for watching.
The Republican Zone is brought to you by Drew Murray.